We're working with, as we said, it is Austin Collins, Amulet Titan, Jeremy Bertarioni, Simic Urza.
Kind of.
Simic Urza. As I'm going to push for this deck to be called. Wait a second, hold on. This is not the same list we saw last round. Jeremy Bertarioni does have Word of Invention in his list.
Yep.
So some dissension in the ranks here. Very interesting. Rossum last round, as far as we know, did not have Word of Invention.
Brian's just having a little look-see here at these two lists.
Yeah, Rossum played Thoughtcast. And I don't see Thoughtcast in Bertarioni's deck. And that does seem to be the main point of dissension. Really interesting. Curious why the players decided on those particular choices. But obviously Bertarioni was right because he's the one at 8-0 and Rossum is at 5-3. So
sure,
that debate is settled now. And we don't need to discuss it anymore. You just play Word of Invention. Also, it makes it so the name is right when you show up in the feature match area. So
it cleans up a lot of loose ends for us.
Right. That's very important for us. And I know all you folks come to participate on the SCG Tour. You're only worried about how things are going to go for Craig and I. I do appreciate that.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
I mean, Once Upon a Time makes this hand so much better than any other conceivable card could.
When I think about how many cards that he can look at on the very first turn of the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just ridiculous. He has double Amulet.
Looks like Austin setting aside a card for a mulligan here. Yep. Headed to the bottom. Who's got the play? We know that's important in all matchups in Modern, but especially against a heavy-hitting deck like Amulet Titan that can just blow up out of nowhere. And we are going to start with a Once Upon a Time. Searching for a bounce land, I bet. Is Austin? Nope, just going to take the Titan. Maybe he already has that bounce land in hand. Who knows? A little smile there from Austin.
Yeah, I mean, he does have more spells to dig with, and the other spells that he has won't be able to find a Titan.
Right. He's got an Ancient Stirrings in
Yes,
hand.
yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Bertarioni going to start us off here with some Scalding Tarn action for Craig's favorite land in the entire format. It's a snow-covered island.
And Jeremy's splitting the difference, right? He doesn't have Ice Age ones, and he doesn't have Full Art ones.
Cold Snap.
Showing up with the middle-of-the-road Cold Snap. Not even foil. What are we doing with our lives?
Let's hear the snow-covered island power ranking between those three sets. What's the breakdown? What's the number one? What's the worst?
Oh, I think I go old school.
Okay. So Ice Age is number one.
And then Full Art.
Full Art number two. So this is the worst. This is the dregs
easily.
of snow-covered island.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible we should just jump to a different match right now. So.
Just run out of the feature match area.
Yeah, so we just don't have to see Jeremy with this land in play.
Gilded Goose.
What in the world?
From Bertarioni. What, just 4 spells on the first turn? It's good, clean magic. Gonna go ahead, crack that ball. We'll take a look at Austin Collins' top card. Bertarioni takes his draw from Bauble. Here's that Ancient Stirrings you talked about, Craig. Gonna go a Searchin'. Did we find a bounce land? Pretty confident that's what we're looking for here.
Yeah, I think a bounce land just gives us the green light to win on turn 3.
I see a Castle Garenbrig. Another Once Upon a Time in hand.
Castle Garenbrig.
Can we get there with the castle? I think it's possible we can.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, and that is going to be the choice for Austin. Going to deploy that castle.
Yeah, we still need that Karoo land.
Yeah, I think we're just a turn off presently. One of the great things about Castle Garenbrig is when you do miss, you get there sooner than you would have otherwise, right?
Yeah, it still jumps the curve a turn.
And that does matter.
But it's possible in a matchup like this that, if he's waiting until turn 4 or 5 in order to deploy that Titan.
Might not be enough.
Yeah, it's already too late.
Well, Bertarioni now punishing you with your second least favorite snow-covered island. It is the full art one. That's going to deploy an Emery. Some juicy targets headed to the bin there.
Yeah, those blue spell bombs are a new addition that we haven't seen a lot of previously.
Yes, they are. And I think it has a lot to do with the more Emery-focused nature of this deck. Here's Engineered Explosives on 1. And we're just going to go ahead.
Yeah, love it.
Cash in a little mana.
Love it.
Crack that Engineered Explosives. Bin both those amulets. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Jeremy losing a lot of resources there, but he still has the Emery.
He can rebuild.
Yeah, you just can't give your opponent that shot of winning on the very next turn.
Yep. 100% the right play from Jeremy there. Austin Collins going to go ahead and play Once Upon a Time the Fairway. Now finds the bounce land we've been missing. Going to deploy that bounce land, pick up Castle Garenbrig. Nope.
Maybe.
Yes. Now passes the turn back to Bertarioni. Bertarioni now with Emery active. Can draw cards. Can control opposing amulets. Astrolabe, going to take another card into hand. Polluted Delta is the fetch land here. Activates Emery. Gonna go ahead, buy back a Mishra's Bauble. Crack Delta. A lot of game actions.
They're not doing a whole lot, but there's a lot of actions.
There's a lot of them, though.
Yeah.
That's what matters. 3 mana tapped.
Uh-oh. Or should I say, Oko.
Or you could go with, oh dear, also acceptable.
The classic.
Also would have accepted, I'm in love with the Oko, Craig. One more answer that I would have allowed.
Been playing a little arena here and there, have we?
A little bit. Drawn some cards. Austin looking a little disappointed. Knows now that even if Titan comes down, it'll be a Primeval Elk pretty soon.
Yes, but one of the things that we see out of these decks so often is that the turn they deploy the Titan, they get to do a lot of things.
That is true. That is true. And the best amulet players aren't the ones who can win all the time on turn 2 and 3. It's the ones who figure out how to win these games. We saw Field of the Dead, a powerful new option for these decks. Maybe you can cobble something together like that. We're about to see an Azusa Lost but Elkin. First step, activate that Emery. Find a juicy target in the graveyard. It's Mishra's Bauble again. Takes a peek at the top of his library, does Bertarioni. Plays a Misty Rainforest. Going to go ahead and crack that one.
Doesn't like that top card.
Nope. Finds a snow-covered forest. Full art. Craig, medium displeased by that selection.
The stupid snowlands. Brian, they make me so angry.
I know, Craig. I know. We're going to get through this together.
We're not, because I know at some point I'm going to be sitting down with a deck full of snowlands.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm going to be snapping pictures, pointing at you, laughing. No real action from Bertarioni yet, but seems to have a lot of time.
Still going for the wrong die. Even after we put the right dice on Oko for him, tries to dial up the wrong one. Come on, Jeremy, you've been here before.
Jeremy gonna turn his food into an elk. Little elk sandwich. And get on the beatdown plan. Turns back to Austin now. Austin with access to Titan mana. Presumably. Is it the correct play at this juncture?
Yeah, we're deep enough in this tournament where, most people are going to know about all of these counter spells out of this Simic Wurza list.
Yeah, I expect so.
And so Austin is asking himself the tough questions of, can I play around this card here?
Looks like the answer is no. Just going to go ahead and jam this Primeval Titan. And Bertarioni going to go ahead and find Metallic Rebuke.
And that's a rough one, because that's one that, Austin probably could have played around next turn easily.
Yeah, I think so. Going to return that Vesiva. Replays Vesiva. Untapped Castle Garenbrig and passes the turn back to Bertarioni. Bertarioni going to be putting together an army of elks pretty soon.
Yeah, and ultimately Jeremy's looking for a big payoff card here. He would love Urza. You would love to complete the Thopter Sword combo.
Sure. I just think like Arkham's Astro Elk could get the job done. Maybe Mox Elk will be fine.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the meantime, he still has a plan here where he's drawing extra cards and he's pressuring the opponent.
Right. Here's Mishra's Bauble once more.
Oko can dial up a swap here if it wants to.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't think I'd just like making more elks here. Couple mana tapped. Just going to deploy that Sword of the Meek. Little mana from Mox Opal. Suiting up the elk.
I mean, this turn's a little bit of a letdown if this is the best we can do.
Yeah, there's another Opal in hand, I think. Mystic Sanctuary getting ready to buy back Metallic Rebuke.
I don't think I like this.
No, I'm not sure about that either.
With the Castle Garenbrig, Austin does have the mana.
Right.
To pay for.
Let's see how that decision pans out. Arkham's Astro Elk going to go ahead and rumble into the red zone. Austin Collins falls to 11. And now Bauble Trigger is going to bring back that Metallic Rebuke. Yeah, Austin has 3 mana available beyond the Karen Brig activation. So
Yep.
finding Titan here seems like it can play through Metallic Rebuke. I don't know that it like wins the game. I don't think it accomplishes all that much, but at least starts the ball rolling for Austin.
Well, Austin does have a main deck Field of the Dead.
Right.
So
Right. So you got something cooking at that point.
It really starts the ball rolling, right? Because
Right.
you get the Field of the Dead and a Karoo.
Now here's the question. The Vestiva that's copying the Karoo, does that have the same name as the bounce land? Austin doesn't care anymore, so that's enough. I don't want to do this anymore. I will pick up my cards, and we will go to a sideboard game instead. I don't know that you could have triggered Field of the Dead there.
Okay. Don't you ask me these tricky rules questions.
Yeah.
We're right on the air. You're just going to ask me that in front of all the fans at home.
I would have to check with the judge. I don't blame you for not knowing the answer to that, Craig. But it doesn't matter. He didn't have the Primeval Titan anyway. And now we are headed to a game 2. And we're going to start over on Austin Collins' side. There you see in the sideboard. And I will note, Austin doesn't like Oko. We saw Ross Merriam playing Amulet earlier. Did have Oko in his sideboard. Austin instead filling that spot. Double Force of Vigor. Might be able to make a dent in this matchup. There's also 2 Disdainful Strokes, 2 Dismember, 2 Tireless Tracker, 2 Mystical Dispute. Also a nice card here. 1 Cavern of Souls, 1 Engineered Explosives, 1 Field of the Dead, 1 Obstinate Baloth, and finally 1 Ramunap Excavator. What do you want to do if you're Austin, Craig?
So a lot of these cards are interesting to me. Like cards that don't seem explicitly good in this matchup, even like Dismember, has some appeal when you don't want to just give your opponent access to Emery over and over. It's a very clean answer to that. And it can take down Urza if an Urza hits the board. So there's some draw for the Dismember. Do we think the games are going to continue going real long? Then Tireless Tracker has a little bit of play to it.
Sure.
The Force of Vigors, like sometimes blowing up the artifacts is just huge, and sometimes it's almost a waste of your time doing that.
Yeah.
So it's funny seeing the Force of Vigors here. The Mystical Disputes are often going to cost 1 mana. So I like bringing these cards in. The Cavern of Souls is great at forcing your big threats through their counter spells. The Field of the Dead is another way of just getting a bunch of redundant threats onto the board. So there's a lot of options here. I would definitely bring in the Cavern of Souls. I think I want the second Field of the Dead in my deck. And then these other cards are very much a judgment call. And it's possible that play draw does make a difference on whether or not you want some of these cards in your deck.
It's funny, Craig, the more we discuss sideboarding options for the opponents of the Simic Wurza deck, the more I realize how many different directions it really pulls you in. There's so many things you have to account for as an opponent of this deck, and it seems almost impossible to do so. You need to answer creatures, you need to answer artifacts. In some ways, you need to answer graveyards. It's like, how many things can you realistically account for?
Well, and Oko is just a big problem, right? You need to be able to pressure an opposing planeswalker, or that thing just gets out of control.
Yeah, good sign this deck might be onto something special. Meanwhile, over on Bertarioni's side, we are looking at 3 Damping Sphere, 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Nile Spellbomb, 2 Fatal Push, 1 Collective Brutality, 1 Ensnaring Bridge, 1 Pithing Needle, 1 Plague Engineer, 1 Assassin's Trophy, and 1 Drown in the Loch. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of stuff specifically for this matchup, besides those Damping Spheres, of course.
Yeah, those Damping Spheres seem great. I could see Thoughtseize just being a good enough card for this type of matchup.
Yep.
And then something like Assassin's Trophy is versatile enough, blowing up their artifact or their land or their big creature. It just is this kind of catch-all that gets everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Like all those cards in this situation. Well, if you're like me, you can't help but notice how comfortable our players look down there in the feature match area. It's because they're sitting in these beautiful Karnox gaming chairs, which have always got your back. You get to save 10% at checkout when you visit karnox.com/SCG. And of course, the best thing about the Karnox gaming chairs, incredibly adjustable. You can move it up, you can move your partner's chair down. Just a random example I'm talking about, but really just many, many points of articulation you can use to adjust. So you have the perfect setup for whatever your gaming needs are. Say you need to be higher than someone else. Karnox can make that happen for you.
You have no shame.
I really do not, Craig. That is accurate.
I hope that people at home know that this is not a joke. Every time I sit down, I literally try to raise my chair as high as possible. And then every time I come back, if I'm not careful, we go live and you're barely on the screen and I'm sitting under the table.
It's more my camera presence, Craig. I'm a big presence on the screen.
You're just
I
a
naturally
bigger personality than
I naturally just take up a lot of space.
That's what it is.
I mean, I understand that's a tough act to follow, but
well, I'm going to have to do it from a little lower than you are.
Carnox can do that for you with their many points of fine articulation. Players just doing a little shuffling here before game 2. Promising start for Austin Collins, but missing on that bounce land on a critical turn really came back to haunt him.
Well, and Jeremy just making the right call, just sacrificing almost his entire board in order to blow up the 2 amulets out of his opponent's side.
Yeah, Jeremy wants his cards in the graveyard. He's fine with that. Had that Emery ready to go. It's like Disdainful Stroke making the cut for Austin Collins. Tireless Tracker. Yeah, we're going full mid-range here. That was a big shift from Collins.
Yeah, had the Dismember as well.
Doesn't find an acceptable hand, though. Going to head down to 6. I think Mana Light was the issue with that hand. Bertarioni also headed down to 6.
Yeah, I'm not in love with the Disdainful Stroke. I feel like...
So we're hitting Urza.
Keep going.
Whir
of Invention. All right, keep going.
Cryptic Command.
Cryptic Command. But I feel like some of these cards...
That's it.
Are problems before that point. Like Emery is potentially just a card advantage engine that's going to get out of control. The Thopter Sword combo is still executable underneath of that. Oko obviously comes down underneath of that.
Abstractly, I agree with you, Craig. I don't see a lot.
Well, and you need 2 mana up while you're doing something else in order to defend that thing from a Cryptic Command.
Right. The only thing I can assert is that Austin just believes if you can control Urza, you can win this matchup going long. And that would kind of make sense given the texture of the hand we saw. It seemed like Austin shifted a little bit more to a mid-range style. In that scenario, you're just saying, okay, I can beat everything in your deck straight up except the raw power of Urza. If I account for this card, I'm willing to play a mid-range game against you, and I can get there. I don't know if that's true. Sure. I'm saying that's a narrative that makes sense why you would be into Disdainful Stroke. First 6, not super promising. Okay, so here's the test. Double bounce land, Once Upon a Time, Amulet, could just ship that Tireless Tracker back, could ship that Disdainful Stroke back, and have a reasonable hand if you hit with Once Upon a Time. If you miss, you probably lose the game on the spot.
Yeah, but you get a lot of looks.
5 deep.
I think you keep this hand, you put the Disdainful Stroke on the bottom, you hit your land, you go turn 2 Tireless Tracker, and the game goes from there.
I agree with you, Craig. And we found it. We found a forest. And a snow-covered forest, whichever one you like.
Oh,
Austin,
yeah.
a man after Craig's own heart, grabbing
doing it.
Basic Forest. Just for you, Craig.
It's just a man of good taste right there is what that is.
Absolutely.
Knows what he's doing.
Gonna go ahead and deploy that turn 1 amulet.
Shows up with his Beavis and Butthead t-shirt and then makes us all look good.
Mm-hmm. How does Austin even know what Beavis and Butthead is?
There
is no chance Beavis and Butthead has been on the air at any point since Austin has been alive. Right? I mean, it can't be.
I don't know. So, one of the companies, I'm not sure which one, but they came out with Cowboy Bebop sleeves.
Yeah.
And my local store has a kids league.
Okay.
And the kids were going gaga over these Cowboy Bebop sleeves. And I was just like, you guys don't know what Cowboy Bebop is. And they do.
Yeah, so that one, it stays in syndication. Like, it gets played on Adult Swim still.
Does it?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Beavis and Butthead, I'm not so sure about. Like you suggested, Craig, turn 2 Tireless Tracker is the play from Austin Collins. On Bertarioni's side, we have turn 1 Gilded Goose. The goose is loose. What is it going to lead to? Looks like the goose wants to spend some mana. Feeling a little frisky. Oh, turn 2 Oko.
So it was turn 2 Elk? Oh, no, he's saying, I don't care if you get a few clues.
Yeah, just making some food here. Well, that makes sense given the goose on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Oko's kind of messed up. Like all these slow plans that I talked about Austin possibly wanting to play, that I think in the absence of Oko could be pretty solid. It feels like a lot of them invalidated very hard by the existence of Oko.
Yeah, your theoretical argument for the mid-range grindy version of the matchup, just it doesn't hold up to me because the Simic deck looks at way more cards. It has access to Oko and counter spells of its own, and what it's trying to do in the mid game to the late game is just so robust.
Yeah, I think I agree. Having just seen a few turns of this game, I mean, maybe when there was like a couple Okos in the deck and they sideboarded in a copy against you, that was reasonable. But with just the full 4 Okos present in Bertarioni's deck, this is a recurring theme. There will often be turn 2 Okos, and playing mid-range against that I do not think will be successful. Looks like we have played.
Yeah, he's saying, I'm going to get a clue, I'm going to sacrifice it right away.
Right. Seems fine. There's that draw.
And he left a mana floating, probably green or a black here.
Looks like that mana's not going to get converted into anything.
Sure, but I like that heads-up play where you're saying, if I draw, my single green spell off of the top, I want to have that mana available.
Oh, absolutely. So Oko going to fall to 2 loyalty somehow, despite all logic and reason.
Takes a massive shot the first turn it's in play of 4 damage and is not that close to being dead.
And it's back to 4 loyalty now, producing a second food. Bertarioni considers options. Is it pastime?
All right, Austin, prove us all wrong with this mid-rangey grind fest. Drawing extra cards every turn, making our land drops.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth noting, too, Bertarioni let this happen. Could have shut off the card drawing from the Tireless Tracker. I think that's an interesting decision, too. Again, I say that not to question it. It's just definitely a decision point. Back on Austin's turn now.
Yeah, he has the ability to play a Simic Growth Chamber and pick up the Teleria West and transmute it this turn if he wants to.
Does seem like that's what he's thinking about here. That does put him off 6 mana on the next turn, though. Going to try and take down that Oko. Now the Goose going to be sacrificed for the cause. Makes another food. Three artifacts on the battlefield for Bertarioni.
And the shields are down.
Looks like Colin's reaching for just basic forest again. That is going to trigger that Tireless Tracker. Spends a couple mana. Cashes in that clue. Tracker goes up to 5 power. Collins takes a draw. And the turn gets passed back to Bertarioni. I think the draw was a Titan. I think.
It's a good spot to be in if it was.
Yeah. Could lead to an interesting next turn for Austin. Bertarioni just going to go ahead and fetch here.
Yeah, and outside of that Oko, Jeremy has not done a whole lot this game.
No, definitely not.
But that would tell me he's got some of the bigger mana haymakers in his hand.
I think I've seen a Whir of Invention in hand.
Okay.
Which makes sense given how hard food has been prioritized in this game.
Oh, and it looks like he peeled an Urza, too.
That's a decent Magic card. Play a 4th land here. Definitely Urza in hand. Pretty sure that's a Whir in hand. Step 1, Urza.
All right, Austin. We've had this mana up all game.
So we're responding to the trigger.
That means we're going with Dismember.
Dismember.
Yep.
I would have loved to see Disdainful Stroke there, but it's like Metallic Rebuke going to be the response to that. Disastrous outcome for Austin Collins. Of course, using the ability on Urza to make mana from that food.
Yeah, this was just a nightmare of a turn.
Amulet of Elks. First time we've seen the Amulet of Elks today. Austin just holding the wrong answer there. Disdainful Stroke would have been huge, quite frankly.
Yeah. I mean, it still would have not worked out against the Metallic Rebuke.
Well, he can't cast their Metallic Rebuke there because he relies on the Urza ability.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
He needed to tap at least one of those artifacts for a blue through Urza.
Yep. We're back on Austin's turn now. Here's an Azusa. I would bet we're still trying to get up to that fair game plan. And doing so pretty effectively. 2 clues now. Getting close to just casting this Titan.
Yeah, and this Tireless Tracker can attack this turn.
Right. Very true. There's a very good chance on Jeremy's next turn, Damping Sphere is going to be the answer that he offers up.
Well, with Urza and a Whir, if he has any other piece of the Thopter Sword combo,
might just win the game.
Yeah, the game could just be over.
Very true. I haven't spotted either of the 2 pieces, either Thopter Foundry or Sword thus far. Doesn't mean they're not there. Matthias going to hop in front. Tracker gets a little bigger. Survives combat.
Yep.
But so does Oko.
Well, and I think the big thing if you're on Jeremy's side is that all your opponent's lands are tapped. You know you're going to do whatever you want next turn.
Yeah, shields down. Can we put together the combo here? Can we mess with our opponent's mana? What's order of the day?
Man. Oko just blowing up artifacts all over the place.
Plenty of mana now available for Jeremy. I think this is Wervin mentioned 4-2. Anticipate this will go find a Damping Sphere. I saw him pass 1 Damping Sphere.
I was going to say, I think we're almost past the Damping Sphere point of the game.
You got something you like better? You just want to get a piece?
Yeah, I think you got a piece, or you have tons of food to work with that can get converted into 1/1s to chump block.
Right.
Giving you plenty of time. Urza can spin the wheel.
Yeah, he's going to get a piece. You're right. Okay. Yeah, I guess with Azusa at the ready. I don't think Bertarioni knows about a second green source, which makes it somewhat appealing to go for Sphere.
Sure.
but I might be mistaken. I am pretty sure that Austin does have second green source in hand. I'm just not sure if Bertarioni knows about it.
He's getting the Sanctuary.
Yeah, that's going to go ahead and put that War of Invention back on top of the battlefield.
Yeah,
that makes sense now.
Yeah. He's saying you have one turn.
One turn. What can you do to me, Austin?
And, you know, without the amulet.
Answer's probably not much.
Oh, no, he's doing it now.
You don't get that turn that we talked about.
Nice.
I'm going to take that back. Go ahead, cast War of Invention.
Yeah, well navigated here by Jeremy.
Yeah, and we're just going to show
a
Thopter Foundry here.
Show me.
Austin gets ready to pick up those cards. There's the Thopter Foundry. Some frustrated drawing of cards, but that is going to do it, and that means Jeremy Bertarioni 9-0.